As we speak, family, friends, past presidents are all gathered at the National Cathedral in our nation's capital to remember one of the most powerful and controversial VPs in American history.
Presidents Bush and are there, along with former Vice President Kamala Harris. A senior White House official tells NBC News that President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance were not invited to the funeral. Dick Cheney made headlines when he endorsed Harris and condemned Trump during the last presidential election. We heard a stirring eulogy from Bush, who served 2 terms in the White House with Cheney at his side. Take a listen.
I wish more Americans got to know Dick Cheney the way the folks in Casper, Cody, and Laramie got to know him. Smart and polished, without airs. Courteous and approachable, seeing everyone as an equal, a gentleman by nature, and a true man of the West. If any voters came hoping for a kind word and a hug, they'd have to settle for the kind word.
NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander is live outside the National Cathedral for us this afternoon. Peter, it's great to see you. Tell us more about who else is there today to pay their respects, and what are some of the memories that people have shared about Cheney so far?
Well, among those memories that we heard, of course, from President Bush detailing his decision-making process, where he had put Dick Cheney in charge of picking his vice president. Ultimately, after they went through the process together, Bush said to Cheney that he thought he would be best served to be at his side. Here inside this cathedral, there are all 5 living former vice presidents. One of them, of course, Joe Biden, who would go on to be president, Dan Quayle, Al Gore, Kamala Harris, and Mike Pence, seated beside each other inside this cathedral. You noted that President Trump is not here today. Neither the president nor Vice President J.D. Vance were invited. The president, by law, as it's required, has called for flags to be lowered across the country, but separately has not put out any words of condolence to the family. We did hear from the Vice President J.D. Vance a bit earlier, offering his condolences to the Cheney family. But this has really been a celebration less about the public life and more about the way that he was among those who loved him most, the people who knew him best, his grandchildren speaking so eloquently, those who knew him in his public form, his public life, saying that he was a power broker in the shadows and always spoke for what he believed was best for this country. Vicki and Morgan.
Yeah, Peter, we mentioned that President Trump is not there. What does this funeral say about the modern GOP if we sort of just zoom out and take a look at it as a whole?
Well, I think it's particularly striking. Obviously, I think the Cheney-Trump divide is really one of the best sort of vehicles to understand what has changed within the modern Republican Party. Dick Cheney, who was so public in his criticism of Donald Trump, his daughter Lynn Cheney, who, of course, served as one of the top key members of the January 6th committee, infuriated by what she blamed the president's role for being in the January 6th attack on the Capitol here. And we did hear from Liz Cheney remembering her father and talking about his commitment to country first. Listen.
He knew that bonds of party must always yield to the single bond we share as Americans. For him, a choice between defense of the Constitution and defense of your political party was no choice at all.
Of course, underlying those comments is that divide between the Cheneys and Donald Trump, who Dick Cheney once said before the last campaign was the greatest danger as an individual to our republic. Back to you.
Our thanks to Peter Alexander. Peter, we appreciate it.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.